Brighton BSU's mission is to help educate the broader communities about issues impacting marginalized communities. BSU did this 5 years ago by organizing a peaceful protest in front of the high school that included students from a variety of ethnic and cultural backgrounds. Students unified and raised awareness about gun violence and police brutality. And we are here to recognize the continued impact of continuing to educate our peers about the challenges marginalized communities have faced over time. But it's not just about raising awareness about the challenges, it's about also elevating our voices and celebrating continued greatness. When we celebrate the diversity that is fabric in our communities, we all benefit, no matter who we are and what we look like.
Hi, my name is Faye Calhoun.
And my name is Bethlehem Brahanu.
This year's Black History Month theme is Black. It stands for Building Leadership and Community Knowledge. We're going to hear from two inspiring people today who both champion the building of leadership and community knowledge.
There are many individuals today who advocate for civil rights. These people often speak out in ways that can make us feel uncomfortable or even scared. But we must remember the end goal of promoting tolerance, understanding, and peace in order to make real progress. We have to be intentional with our words and not just performative with our actions.
Hi, my name is Niami. Today we have two speakers who were asked to talk about what it means to build leadership and community knowledge as part of our Black History Month MLK Assembly. Our first speaker today is Principal LaShara Evans. Principal LaShara Evans began her journey in the Rochester City School District. After graduating from School of the Arts, she obtained her bachelor's in public health from the University of Rochester. She then received her master's in education with a special certification in urban education from the University of Rochester School of Education. Ms. Evans served as the principal of the Flower City School number 54 and has been the principal at French Road Elementary during the 2022-2023 school year. She would transition back from the Rochester City School District in March to become the chief staff, which is basically the number 2 in command for a district that serves over 22,000 students. Please welcome Principal LaShara Evans.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Hall. Thank you, Mrs. Mosier. Thank you, Ms. Malloy. Thank you, Ty. If I'm missing anybody, Robin, thank you all. But more importantly, I want to say thank you to the Black Students Union. And I think we need to give the Black Students Union. I know I'm the person right before the mayor speak, but in our household, I think I'm the most important child because I took the most attention probably from all 6 of us. So I'll warm it up for him, but I think that's why I went first, but I am the most important, just remember that, just joking. And of course, giving honor to the mayor of Rochester, Malik Evans, of course, thank you for being here. I can remember back in 2002, I was a freshman at the University of Rochester. I started that fall of 2001. And at that time, I was coming from the School of the Arts. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with the School of the Arts, but if you walk into the School of the Arts, you didn't have silos. You wouldn't even know who you really hung out with who. The ethnic makeup, the racial makeup of School of the Arts was really a mixture. So when you go into the cafeteria, there wasn't just white students sitting with white students. There wasn't black students sitting with black students. You literally had everyone sitting with everybody. So when I walked into the campus of U of R, it was a culture shock. I look out into my classes, and sometimes I was the only one that looked like me. And I was thinking, what am I doing here? And I immediately thought about transferring. I said, I would love to go to a historically black college. I said, I probably need to go because this place is not for me. And I say this because I want to say this to the Black Students Union. I went to the Black Students Union, they had an election. I just went to learn, just to see who was gonna run. I had no idea I was a freshman. I don't know. I barely could make it to class most mornings. But I went there because I felt like I needed a place where I knew I could belong, because I didn't feel like I belonged on that campus. So I went and they were doing the speeches, and I decided to stand up to say a few words. And somehow I became the president that following year of the Black Students Union. And I think that's the way it was supposed to happen. I think somewhere down in my spirit, there was a need to feel connected. There was a need to be in leadership on that campus. There was a need to say, this is what we need on our campus, and this is how it's gonna happen. So when I became the president of the Black Student Union, we started many things that we didn't have. So there was a dance group called Indulgence. Originally, there was a dance group, remember Demotions, Malik? It was started also from Black Student Union, but sooner or later it transitioned, and it didn't have any Black dancers in it anymore. So we started Indulgence. We started the step show, where we brought in the city school district students to actually have a step show. And just that year, in the 2 years that I was part of the Black Student Union, we're able to do something different for the campus and unite different groups across the campus that didn't happen before. And that wouldn't have happened without Black Students Union. So I just want to tell you that your voice and your presence on this school campus is so very important. And as things start to transition and we start to because we're getting better. We're getting better, we're starting to see more students of color in Brighton. That doesn't mean that there isn't a place for the Black Students Union. There will always be a place for Black Students Union, and that will include students that are not people of color. You also have a place within Black Student Union, because the load of what's happening cannot bear on the shoulders of Black and brown people. That has happened for far too long, and it's not only up to us anymore. If we're gonna change what our fabric of our nation was started and how it was started, it has to be the work of everybody in this room. Even if you don't have brown skin, well, you all have brown skin, just so you know, it's just a little lighter, it's just shades. Some of you have less melanin, some of you have some real good deep melanin. So just know that it's gonna take every single shade in this room to make sure you're gonna make a difference. So please know, students, that you have a place, you will always have a place, and I'm so happy that Black Students Union exists. I can remember when I was in high school, I knew nothing about Brighton, except for I don't belong there. I know that that is not a place for me, but now raising 2 children in Brighton, they belong here. They are very excited to be here. If any of you were in Matilda, anybody else in Matilda? My goodness, my daughter sat there and watched with her mouth open the entire time. Miss Honey, you were Miss Honey, yes. She was watching her the entire time and wanted to meet her and said, I can't wait to be on that stage. So my kids are already seeing, like, this is home. Even though I love Rochester, obviously I am going back, and I'm always gonna love Rochester, but I love Brighton. My kids know that Brighton is their home, and that's because of the work of you and the work of this prime leader right here as well. So I'm not gonna be long, because I'm not a long speaker. I'm not someone that comes up and give a speech. I'm gonna lead the way for my brother. But I do wanna share something with you. I know we're talking about building community leadership and knowledge, but I also wanna share that Black history isn't just for Black people, as I mentioned, it's American history. And I'm visiting our 5th grade classes during lunch, and I'm reading the story of Theo, who tried to make it through his day without any help from inventions of Black people. And I'm gonna read just the beginning of it, because it's a longer story, but just to give you an idea of what the world would be like if there were no Black people. So just give me a quick minute, I'm gonna read just maybe the first couple of paragraphs. So this is the story of a little boy named Theo, who woke up one morning and asked his mother, Mom, what if there were no Black people in the world? Well, his mother thought about that for a moment and then said, son, follow me around today and let's just see what it would be like if there are no Black people in the world. Mom said, now go get dressed and we'll get started. Theo ran to his room to put on his clothes and shoes. His mother took one look at him and said, Theo, where are your shoes? And why are your clothes wrinkled, son? I must iron them. However, when she reached for the ironing board, it was no longer there. You see, Sarah Boone, a Black woman, invented the ironing board, and Janny Matzlinger, a Black man, invented the shoe lasting machine. Oh well, she said, please go do something with your hair. Theo ran to his room to comb his hair, but the comb was not there. You see, Walter Salmons, a Black man, invented the comb. Theo decided to just brush his hair, but the brush was gone. You see Lydia O. Newman, a black female, invented the brush. Well, this was a sight to see. Wrinkled clothes, hair a mess, even mom's hair was out the hair care inventions of Madam C.J. Walker. You get the picture. So it goes on, and throughout his day, there was nothing that they could do because it was invented by a black person. And at the very end, and I'm gonna leave you with this. So if you ever wonder, like Theo, where would we be without black people? Well, it's pretty plain to see we will still be in the dark. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Evans. Hello there, my name is Jaden. I'm honored to introduce you to Mayor Malik Evans. Malik Evans is the City of Rochester's 71st mayor. He previously served on the Rochester City Council as an at-large member and on the Rochester City School Board, including 7 years as its president. Prior to becoming mayor, Mayor Evans has worked as an officer in the banking industry for more than 20 years, holding various leadership positions at M&T Bank Corporation and ESL Federal Credit Union. He developed a focus to ensure the financial sector responds to all the needs of customers with equity and fairness by ensuring all individuals and businesses that have knowledge to all tools and information that will help them build a stronger financial future. Please welcome Rochester Mayor Malik Evans.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be at Brighton, and it's good to be following my little sister because usually she's always following me, but we switched places today. No, I come from a family of 6. And I was not the smartest one in the family. I tell folks that all the time. My little sister was much smarter than I was, and in fact, sometimes I would have her do my math homework when I was a student. So it's good to see her here. Brighton, I'm sorry you're losing her, but I know that while she was here, I'm sure that you felt the great impact that she has as it relates to education. And to the Black Student Union, congratulations. I mean, it is a lot of work to step up and want to take on leadership at a very young age. But I think that you have shown through your ability to put together this event and the other events that you have that are coming up. I understand there's a dance coming up. I may come and get sturdy at that dance. We'll see. I'm glad that you are that you are recognizing the importance of contributions that folks make to America, that African Americans, the contributions that they make to America. And I want everyone to understand this, be you blue, white, green, yellow, whatever your color, whatever your creed, wherever you come from. Because if you turn on the news, there's this talk about Black history and its place in America. Its place in America is Black history is American history. You heard Ms. Evans just talk about the contributions that African Americans have made through inventions. And when we were growing up, we had a big poster on our wall, and it had all of the Black inventors. So if anyone ever asks you, why do you carve out time to talk about Black History Month? Well, when you're talking about Black history, you have to remind people that you're talking about American history. That is an important factor that people have to understand, and that is why we carve out time for Black history. And then some people say, why is Black History Month in February? Because it's the shortest month? No, there's history as to why Black History Month is in February. And I'm not going to test any of you to see if you know why, but there was a great leader, probably one of my favorite people. My son is named after this person, Carter G. Woodson. My youngest son's name is Carter. I named him Carter because of Carter G. Woodson, who is the father of Black History Month. And the reason why Black History Month is celebrated and this is a trivia question. Where's my buddy that's doing the trivia every week? All right, he's doing the questions. This may be a question you might want to add for your Black History Month trivia. The reason why we have Black History Month is because we had Negro History Week, which was started by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And he did that because he was the second African American to graduate from Harvard University. The first one was W.E.B. Du Bois, who started the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, called the NAACP. But he started Negro History Week for a week because he was not able to get attention about the contributions that African Americans made. But he did it during the week of Valentine's Day, because whose birthday was on the 14th? Frederick Douglass. And whose birthday was on the 13th? Abraham Lincoln. By the way, the city of Rochester is the only municipality in Monroe County that gives Lincoln's birthday off. Don't ask me how that happens, but we had Monday off, and then we have the next week, which is President's Day. So we still celebrate Lincoln because of his contributions. So he started that week to recognize Lincoln, who fought for, who pushed for freedom through the Emancipation Proclamation, and Frederick Douglass, who is a Rochesterian. We claim him. He spent 25 years here, more years than anyone else. Why do I tell you that? I tell you that because you are in a city that is rich in history. You are in a city where Frederick Douglass helped pave the way for all of us to be able to be here today, particularly if you are an African American. Now, I'm only going to take a couple of minutes because I want to spend the bulk of the time allowing you to ask me questions. Because I know that it's not often that you get to ask public officials questions, mayors questions, but I also like seeing what questions are on your mind, because the questions sometimes tell me the challenges or issues that you are facing. I'm a graduate of the University of Rochester, and I got a firsthand view of speaking truth to power. Now, I always laugh whenever the University of Rochester invites me back, and I'm one of their proud alumni, but I was a troublemaker when I was at the U of R. A straight troublemaker. When I arrived at the University of Rochester, there was the Office of Minority Student Affairs. It was in the basement where mice and rodents used to run around. They got rid of the African American Studies Department. The Frederick Douglass Institute, it no longer existed. There were very few black professors, and there were a dearth of African American students. So in 1999, black students, white students, I was a part of student government, we all got together and we took over the administration building. We took over the administration building. We stayed there for years. I remember my father calling me. Now, my father was a 60s radical, and he called me and said, "What are you doing? You're supposed to be in class. What is this I'm hearing about? Why am I seeing you outside the president's office?" I said, "Well, we're exercising our First Amendment rights, and we want to see some changes here." And that worked. We saw changes. Now the Office of Minority Student Affairs is in a nice, airy building. They got lights. You don't get dry mouth from just walking there. It was in a hot basement before that. I'm not kidding you. That's there. The Frederick Douglass Institute is reestablished. Dr. McCune runs that institute. They had some success with recruiting some black professors. I was 19 years old when we did that. I tell you that because regardless of your age, you are able to make a difference. And then I look at LaShara Evans. I look at the right-hand man to the mayor, Courtney Thomas. They then came to the University of Rochester, and they were beneficiaries, and we reminded them. They were beneficiaries of the work that we put in, just as I am a beneficiary of the work that Frederick Douglass put in, that Martin Delany put in, that Harriet Tubman put in, that Martin Luther King put in, that Malcolm X put in. So we are all beneficiaries of those that have came before us in the standards, in the shoulders of people that we stand on. And there are many people that have paved the way for us to be able to do that. So you have a focus on a lot of the questions that you had sent in advance were related to Dr. King. And Dr. King is probably one of my favorite civil rights leaders. Probably the favorite. Now, I'm named after Malcolm X, which is odd because Malcolm X was Muslim. My father was a Baptist preacher, but he liked Malcolm X. And my name was supposed to be Malcolm. But my father's twin brother, my cousin Malcolm, was born a little bit before me, and you couldn't have two Malcolms in the family. So my father was like, what am I going to do? So Malcolm X took his Hajj to Mecca. And if anybody in here is of the Muslim religion, they know once you go to your Hajj, you change your name. And his name was El-Hajj Malik Malik El-Shabazz. So that's how I got the name Malik. And then after that, my father, because he must have thought I was going to be something, and he just didn't do that, then he named me Delaney, Martin Delaney. And if you don't know who Martin Delaney was, before there was Marcus Garvey, there was Martin Delaney. Martin Delaney got into Harvard University and medical school, then they kicked him out because he was African American, but he was a contemporary of Frederick Douglass. So then Delaney was my middle name. And then I have another middle name that is far too long to put on a birth certificate. I won't tell you what it is. But I'll give you a hint. It's a trivia question. He was the first independently elected president of the Belgian Congo. Anybody knows that name, you will know what my middle name is. No, Miss Evans, you will not say it. But it's a long name. So I tell you these stories because I'm blessed in that I knew where I came from. I knew what I could do because we learned the history. We learned the culture very early on, before it was popular. Before all these people were talking about the importance of history, wearing dashikis, we were doing that in the 80s. When they thought our family was crazy. When my dad had Black History Month classes, we were required, when I was growing up, to learn speeches. I had to learn the I Have a Dream speech by the time I was 10 years old. I had to learn the Malcolm X speech, Message to the Mississippi Black Youth, by the time I was 12 years old. In my house, we had already read The Destruction of a Black Civilization, Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Where Do We Go From Here by Martin Luther King. We learned all of these things very early on. And I say this to you because regardless of your age, it is important, and I don't care what color you are or where you're from, that you take a critical issue to learn some education for yourself. Your school teachers do not have time to teach you all of it. You have to take some initiative to learn these things. Because when you learn these things, it gives you fuel and power to know where you can go. And no one better encapsulates that than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Graduated from Morehouse College at 16 years old. Led the Montgomery bus boycott in his 20s. And you know how he was able to lead it? He was able to lead it because all the old folks were sitting there arguing, flossing, trying to see who was going to get all the credit. And then they saw this quiet young man sitting off to the back, and they said, all right, that's the guy who he needs to be able to lead that. And then the rest is history. And Dr. King has given a lot of famous speeches. What's his most famous speech? The one everybody talks about. I have a dream. Guess what? That's not my favorite speech. My favorite speech is one that he gave on February 4th, which was my birthday. I wasn't born yet. February 4th, 1968. And it is still, to me, one of the most powerful speeches that he has ever delivered. It was a sermon called The Drum Major Instinct. Who knows what a drum major is? What's a drum major? What does a drum major do? Who plays in a band here? Raise your hand if you play in a band. You, back there, blue coat. What's a drum major? They're the leader. They're the leader. Bill Maley is a drum major. Robin Wilt is a drum major. Mr. McGowan is a drum major. Sarah Clark is a drum major. I was in Albany on Wednesday. She was running the place. Sort of. But a drum major is somebody who always wants to be important. They're not important, but they're the leader. And Dr. King in his speech talked about how from the time you are born, you have this instinct to want to be a drum major. Anybody cry when they were a baby? I did. I still cry. When you're mayor of the city of Rochester, you sleep like a baby. You wake up crying every 2 hours. But that's a call for attention. And Dr. King juxtaposed this need for attention that we all have. This need for attention that we all crave. And some of us, in modern days, they didn't have Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and all that other stuff that you guys are all on. I got to be on it as mayor. But back then he talked about how people had this need for attention, this need to want to be recognized, and they were called drum majors. Now, we have a modern day form of people wanting to be a drum major, because now you don't have to be a mayor or have a title to be important. You can be a social media influencer. Anybody know any influencers? Kylie Jenner, the boy that gets sturdy. My kids love getting sturdy, so you know, they do that all the time. I'm like, you having waffles for breakfast, they start getting sturdy. They just break down and do it for no reason. The flight's on time, just get sturdy. But we have this need for attention. And social media allows us to do that. Because social media, it's like monopoly money. And it's not real, right? It's not real. So Dr. King, in his speech, the drum major, he talked about, if you're gonna be a drum major, what are you gonna be a drum major for? What are you gonna be an influencer for? Is it just to put out all the great stuff that you're doing? We have a new, what we call in government, folks, they're called altruistic, egotistical folks. It's a term I coined. If they're giving somebody a blanket, they're showing themselves giving somebody a blanket. If they're handing out people food to the sick, they gotta let you know that they're doing that. See, but I'm the son of a Baptist preacher. You're just supposed to do that stuff anyway. And technically, you're not even supposed to advertise it. Others may see you doing it, but they can talk about it. But now social media has transformed that, where we have to beat our chest to say, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing. And then 9 times out of 10, they didn't do it. They're laying in their pajamas. They might have done it for 2 minutes, and then they're laying in their pajamas and putting it out. So Dr. King, it's amazing how that speech in 1968, almost 55 years ago, is still relevant today. But you know what he said he wanted to be a drum major for? Say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. Say that I helped the sick, that I visited people who were incarcerated, that I spoke up when things were wrong. And he said, all of those other silly things will not matter. And then he ended it by saying, if I can help somebody as they pass along, if I can help somebody with a word or song, if I can change a world as a Christian ought, if I can make this old world a new world, then my work will not be in vain. Say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace, and all of those other silly things will not matter. So I want you all to be drum majors, but I want you to be a drum major for the fight for a quality education. I want you to be a drum major to stop bullying. I want you to be a drum major to help those that are less fortunate. I want you to be drum majors to speak up when you see injustice. I want you to be a drum major to speak up when you see anti-Semitism, when you see racism, when you see sexism. Those are things that you should be a drum major for. And all of those silly things will not matter. And then he got real reflective. Because think about it, this was February 4th, 1968. When did he die? April 4th, 1968. So almost 2 months from his death, he said, I won't have a lot of money to leave behind. I won't have a lot of fine things to leave behind. But I want people to say, he said, I wonder what people will say about me at my funeral. And man, as mayor, you go to a lot of funerals. And I've been to some funerals where people ain't have nothing to say about the person. I've been to some where it's been packed out, like Minister Franklin Florence, and I've been to some where there's been 2 or 3 people. And the ones that have been 2 or 3 people have been sad. And 9 times out of 10, because I get along with everybody, they were usually people that were mean as hell when they lived, didn't do anything for anybody else, didn't leave an impact, and it's sad to see. So he said, what will people say about me? And what are we saying about them? We know what we're saying about them. Not the holiday that we have, but the fact that black kids can go to Brighton. The fact that when I look at all the portraits of the old white dudes that were mayor of the city of Rochester, there's a dude named Malik and a mayor named Lovely. You think Frederick Douglass would have thought that Lovely and Malik could have been mayor? No. But he planted those seeds early on to see those things bloom. And although we still have challenges in our country, although we still have challenges in our city, I want you to think back to the names of the individuals that I just named and think about the seeds that they planted that are now blooming and how they probably did not think that we will be sitting in Brighton, New York, Rochester, New York. Because if you're on the airplane, you say, I'm from Brighton, they're going to say, where's that? Remember, Rochester's the heartbeat. Brighton's maybe where you live, but remember, you still represent Rochester, right? But think, would they have thought that this is where we would be? You think Susan B. Anthony would have thought that Sarah Clark would be in the state assembly? No. But she planted those seeds. So when we look at all the challenges that we have, all the things that are challenges for us, think about those seeds that you can plant now, that you will be the beneficiaries of. LaShara Evans didn't know that she was going to be sitting in a nice OMSA office that was air conditioned and not too hot when I was causing ruckus at the University of Rochester. Courtney Thomas, who everyone thinks is my son, he didn't know that he'd be a posse scholar coming into the University of Rochester because we said you need more color in that school. But we did that through hard work. I wasn't able to do that by posting on social media saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. We did it. We activated. We did the work for it first and then talked about what we did later. And that is how we need to change. That is how we must transform our community. That is how we must transform our world. And you guys are already doing that by planting the seeds. You're planting the seeds just by being here today. You're planting the seeds just by making sure that you honor all of American history and just not some of it. You're making sure that you do that by talking about all of American history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So American history, and you guys need to speak up about this, is you need to make sure that you say, you ever have somebody tell you, I got some good news and I got some bad news? That's American history. Hey, you want the bad news first or the good news first? The bad news, America has slavery. You know what the good news is, though? We overcame. You know what the good news is, though? We kept marching on. You know what the good news is, though? That we have overcome so many of the challenges to be able to create opportunities and open doors for people who didn't even know that those doors would be able to be open. So we got the good news and bad news, and you have to call out and tell the good news and bad news. So write Florida, tell Governor Ron DeSantis that it's okay to tell the good news and the bad news, because that's life. And you cannot get to the good news unless you recognize the bad news. My parents would say that all the time, the good news, the bad news. The good news is you get a new pair of sneakers for school. The bad news is they XJ900s. Right? You gotta get both. You gotta be able to tell both. And I was able to overcome that by getting a job, working and spending way too much money on sneakers that I should have invested. But that's another conversation on financial empowerment. So, Brighton, happy Friday. Keep going, keep pushing. Black Student Union, I'm so very proud of you. And I know that you will leave a mark here on this community. One of my favorite artists, Beyonce, she has a song called I Was Here. I lived, I loved, and I left this world better than it was. And that is what you all should strive to do. Be drum majors for justice, be drum majors for peace, be drum majors for righteousness, and all of the other silly things won't matter. Thank you. Now we have 7.5 minutes for questions. Remember, questions start with who, what, where, when, and how. You students get that. It's the adults that always give a soliloquy before they ask a question. So, who has a question? Maybe we can get to 3 questions before you have to get back to your studies. We'll start with this gentleman here. So how do you continue to honor MLK's legacy? How you continue to honor MLK's legacy, the first, and how I continue to honor MLK's legacy is to live in service, to leave a job in the banking industry, to come and take a job as mayor. And let me tell you, you don't do it for the money. You do it for the service. And that's how you do that. And how do you continue to honor that legacy? By making sure that we have strong neighborhoods, good public safety, that we invest in youth development, that we invest in building a more prosperous future for folks who aren't here yet, and that we have a commitment to equity, social justice, and inclusion. That is how you continue to honor, that's how I work to honor MLK's legacy. And then more personally, making sure that my kids get educated. Because there's nothing worse than a leader that is out preaching and telling you all these things, and then you look at their own family and their kids aren't doing what they need to do. I tell leaders that all the time. I said, how are you out here lecturing the kids about doing whatever, and your kid skipping school or not getting an education? So that's the other part. Personally, making sure that Cameron Evans and Carter Evans gets an education so that way they can then carry on the mantle of the work that their father's doing. Hopefully not go into politics. I pray they don't do that. But to do other things that will allow them to make a difference. That's how I continue to honor the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, someone up front had a question up here too as well. Who was that? Yes. I think one of the most important things that the way you can educate your peers about Black history is to make it fun. To make it fun. The idea of the question of the day, the trivia, that's fun because people love trivia. They love being able to ask questions. But the other thing is to do these parties and dances. My father used to call it edutainment. So we'd be at these things having parties. The DJ would be playing. We'd be bobbing for apples. You can't do that anymore in the COVID world. Bobbing for apples, you guys can't do that anymore. I wouldn't recommend it. I still look back and I'm like, how did we do that? We actually put apples in water and you'd have like 30 kids putting their, can't do that now. We did a lot of things back in the day that there's no way you could do now. But those types of things are what makes it fun. When you make education fun, when you make, and you make it inclusive for everybody, everybody loves it. And that's what you have to do to educate people about Black history. You can't beat people over the head. I always said if I was a teacher, everyone would love my class because I would make it fun. And you have to mix the two together. You don't have to just sit and say, all right, in 1865, this person. No, you want to make it come alive. And I think when you do that with students, you want to be able to do that. So I joke about getting sturdy. But historically, if you want to learn about Black history, you can learn about drumming and go back to Africa and learn about how they did a lot of those things and then show the dances that evolved into getting sturdy. Because getting sturdy is really nothing but the WAP. You guys don't know what that is, but that's a dance that we did back in the day. You see what I'm saying? So we can give you the historical context of the history. That's how you do. You make it fun. Getting sturdy is like a cross between the Running Man, the WAP, and dropping it like it's hot. All right. Next question. My brother up here, and then over there. Yeah. One of the things, ensuring equitable access to community resources is making sure that the people have access to those resources. So my assemblywoman, Sarah Clark, is a big advocate of this. Rochester, for example, gets less per capita than Albany, Buffalo, and Syracuse. She's up here smiling. But in order to have equitable access to those resources, marginalized communities like the city of Rochester needs to make sure that we get our fair share from Albany, the federal and state government. It's why I am always begging my representatives for more money. I'm in DC and Albany all the time, right? And why is that important? Because Rochester, New York, has 5 of the poorest zip codes in New York State. The top 5 poorest zip codes in New York State are in the city of Rochester. So why does that matter? That matters to all of you because Rochester is the heartbeat. So we have to work doubly hard to make sure that you all advocate to make sure that Rochester gets its fair share so we can have great recreation centers, so that we can have great youth job programs. That is how we make sure that we get equitable access. So I have a program in Rochester where I'm saying any young person that wants to get a job can get one. But I had to go and work to get those resources. I'm asking the state for more. Assemblywoman Clark's gonna help me with that. But we got money from the federal government. They gave me an extra $1 million. We got money that we're spending from the city because I know that if all of you have a job, you are not gonna get involved in violence. Because you know why? You're gonna be too tired. You're gonna be too worn out. You're not gonna have time. My kids never get in trouble. You know why? Because I keep them busy. Karate and this and that, Boys and Girls Club. They're so tired by the time they get home, they eat and just go to bed. And that's what I want to have for all of you. And I want you to have those equitable access to resources. If you want a job, we should be able to give you one. And then if you're playing a sport, you got a job and you're in a club, you're not getting in trouble. You're not shooting anybody, you're not hanging on the corner, you're not drinking, you're not gonna do any of those things because you're gonna have equitable access and we're gonna see violence go down. It's a new way of thinking. It's a frame of reference that is so totally different. And it all starts with that great question around equitable resources. And that's why it matters. Okay, we got 2 minutes, so let's get 2 more questions left with 2 minutes. Up here. Okay, you said ladies first? Who's that? All right, go ahead. The biggest way to bridge connections between students is to make sure that you have conversations and that you create those intentional conversations to have that space. So if you are a white student, go out of your way to make sure that you connect with a student that's not white. If you are a black student, go out of your way to make sure that you connect with a student that is not black. I did that. They used to call me the United Nations. We had something called it was a group of us. They called us the multicultural connection. Because it was just we had, and my sister can attest to this, we had everybody coming in and out of our house. Black, white, blue. But when they ate dinner at our house or got my father's black history lessons, they were all black. Regardless of what your color was, right? And that is how you break down walls and barriers, because let me tell you something. You are less likely to say something crazy about a Jewish person or a black person if you know that one of your good friends is that way. Because what's gonna happen? I'm gonna call you up and say, wait a minute, Tom, why are you talking about me like that? I thought we were tight. So that's why these connections are so very important. We would have less craziness if people actually knew a black person. That kid from Buffalo that killed the 10 people at Tops, he ain't know no black people. Not one. He just saw what he saw on TV. He probably knew Obama was president and Ray got arrested. He didn't know, and he just saw what he saw on TV. But had he known a Malik, or had he known a Cameron, or had he known Quayshawn, he would have thought differently because he would have saw that African Americans wanted the same things that they wanted. A good quality education, a good home, and not to be beat over the head. So that's why it's important to create those spaces. In Brighton, you have the ability to do that because you're a pretty diverse district compared to some of the other suburban districts. So you gotta be intentional about making sure that you do that. So that's how you make those connections. All right, last question, and then it's gonna be 8:40. And I always run a tight ship in terms of meetings. I'm never late. Go ahead. He wants a preview of me getting sturdy. No, we're not getting that. Courtney's back there. Courtney's back there. Courtney's back there cutting me off, saying, no. We don't want that to go viral, because you know what the headline will be on Instagram? Epic fail, the mayor's sturdy. But I might give you a 2-step if I come to your dance. All right? But thank you guys. Thank you so much. You guys have been great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yema.
Hi, my name is VK.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mayor Evans, for your kind words today.
Now, our Vice President Amar.
Thank you for entertaining these questions, Mayor Evans. Principal Evans, can you come back up for the moment? My name is Amar Aliga. I'm the Vice President of BSU, and we are grateful to both of you for your words today and helping us celebrate building leadership and community knowledge today. Every year, we thank our speakers by presenting them a commemorative plaque. On behalf of BSU, we would like to present you the BSU Truth in Action Recognition 2023, honoring Rosa Parks and MLK's commitment to social justice, like education and community building. We thank you for a positive role model for students across Monroe County and your continued commitment for tolerance and inclusivity. We thank you for your time today and for helping us appreciate the continued fight of representation in education.
I would like to thank
Present his award officially
The plaques read the following way. The BHS Black Student Union presents the Truth in Action Recognition 2023, honoring Rosa Parks and MLK Jr.'s commitment to social justice, education, and community building. Dr. Hall, thank you to guests and speakers. Say a few words, and then, I don't think I'm supposed to say that. Mayor Evans, if you could stand up. Okay, stand up to me. I already gave you the plaque, but I would like to present to you. My bad. You can do the best.
Just one more round of applause for our wonderful, beautiful speakers today. LaShara Evans and Malik Evans.